Welcome everyone to our Lancs Can Lunch and Learn series in November, and the theme for this month is food. We have two great speakers, Kay and Rob, who are going to talk about their work in relation to food across Lancashire and Greater Manchester. So how it will work is we'll have our first presentation, and then if anyone's got the opportunity, wants to ask any questions, then we'll take some questions after that, and then we'll continue on to our second presentation with some general questions and opportunities for announcements at the end. So I will start by sharing our slides. So Kay is going to talk about her work first, and then we'll have Rob. So can everyone see the PowerPoint?
No, I can't see it.
It's just loading for me.
Oh,
there we go. Now I can see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant. So if we can go on to the next slide. Okay. So hello everybody. My name's Kay Johnson, and I'll just give you a little bit of an introduction and tell you who I am. So I am a farmer's daughter. I was brought up on a farm in West Lancs, and so we had animals, we grew vegetables. It was a kind of varied farm, and that was kind of my life until I left home. Never thought that I would go back to farming, and after becoming a chef, realizing that was far too much like hard work, I then became a nutritionist. So I've been a nutritionist for 33 years in various capacities, as a lecturer, public health, developing community programs. I've worked overseas with Thai Burmese refugees and with Australian Aborigines, and mostly in Scotland actually before I came back to Lancashire. I'm a Soil Association ambassador. I was the founder of Sustainable Food Lancashire, which I set up in about 2011 or 12, and I then set up the Larder in 2015. Next slide, please. So I juggle my time between my private work and the work that I do for the Larder, but there's a lot of crossover, so the Larder work involved. So where the Larder actually started was I came back to Lancashire from Scotland in 2011. And I lived in Lancaster, and I was very much involved in the Transition City Lancaster group. And there was a group of us who decided that we were going to become a member of the Sustainable Food Places network. And it was very new. It was kind of the beginnings of Sustainable Food Places. So we held an event, and we, at that time in Lancaster, and I think that's still the same, it was very well supported by Green Party councillors, and so because of that, the group in the Sustainable Food Group in Lancaster was supported by the council, and that work then has developed into Food Futures, which is doing great things over in Lancaster. And then soon after that, I set up a group called Sustainable Food Lancashire, and this was a selection of 17 people from across Lancashire who were all working in the kind of food and health field, and we developed a charter, so the funding from that came from public health. So we have a sustainable food charter for Lancashire, That charter was supposed to be developed then into a strategy for Lancashire. However, as the charter was launched in about 2014, public health, who was supporting it, transitioned from the NHS into the council, and it became part of Lancashire County Council, and all the funding that had been attached to this just went overnight, and all the officers that were supporting it went overnight. So that got put on hold, and I'll come back to that shortly. I set up the Larder as a CIC in 2015. So the Larder stands for Lancashire and Region Dietary Education Resource. And there are four main priorities. So the priorities are improving nutrition, tackling food poverty, benefiting the environment, and supporting the local economy. And the strapline that we use is food fairness for all. And one of the main aims is to make fresh local produce affordable to people on low incomes without farmers, etc., bearing the cost. And we do that through various interventions, community-led projects based on, trying to make problems, developing solutions out of problems. So one of the things that I've been doing for many years is training up food champions, so that the food champions can then deliver sustainable and healthy food messages out into mainly disadvantaged communities with marginalised groups, so that message is spread. I'm also working at the moment with South Ribble Council to set up a food cooperative, and this is something that was very much involved with about 30 years ago. And food cooperatives support local farmers. They reduce food miles, it can reduce waste, and they're a really great way not only for people to access affordable fruit and veg, but it improves health. There's lots of benefits to that. Next slide, please. And so my private work at the moment is under the heading of Foodwise Training Limited. How I work there is I deliver gut health workshops and private sessions. So I work with groups and individuals. I'm particularly interested in how gut health and soil health are related. So through my gut health workshops, I'm also talking to people about how, what they're eating is affecting their gut, and how, the importance of where they're sourcing the food that they're eating. I'm very much involved with food strategy development. So following on from the development of the charter over 10 years ago, we're now reviewing that. So I'm working with public health, with some of the cabinet members and Myerscough College on the development of a sustainable food strategy for Lancashire. And in the picture there is Sheila Dillon from the Radio 4 Food programme. She interviewed me about 10 years ago for the food programme. So I went to Groundswell this year and I interviewed quite a few of the speakers, and Sheila was one of them. So this is my new project where I'm now interviewing food experts and trying to make the messages that they're delivering more relatable to the general public. Next slide, please. The impact of my work, well, what I hope it does is raise awareness about how our food choices affect the environment, and then how that then helps people to change their eating behaviour. So kind of knowledge of food and where it comes from it does help people to make better choices and change their behaviour. Also, it makes it easier for people, to make choices, and which then brings it brings stronger resilience to individuals, to communities, reduces food miles, and also reduces waste. As I mentioned, what I try to do is translate advice into a language that people can understand. A lot of the documents out there, when you read them, it's very difficult to really kind of to work out how those actions can become practical and be implementable, and that's what we're trying to do, make things more practical. And then via the strategy work, we are supporting farmers who want to farm more regeneratively. So one of the examples of that is one of our farmers is been having some problems with the planning department and also environmental health. So through the support of the group, we are able to support them. Next slide, please. So so successes. Well, a personal success for me was a few years ago, I received an MBE, the Services to Food, Nutrition and the Community. I mentioned the food champion. So over the years, I have trained hundreds of food champions who are delivering these healthy and sustainable food messages out in various communities, in schools, in disadvantaged communities, and that's something that is that I am intending to do more of this year. The cafe we had, unfortunately, Preston City Council didn't see the benefits of that, so they took the building back. But what we developed there was a sustainable food system at a micro level. So we were able to demonstrate how it was possible to, so all of our ingredients were sourced locally and ethically. And there were lots of different things. So it was all things like trying to reduce waste as much as possible. We hardly had any. We tested out a lot of theories, and it kind of worked. We managed to test out quite a lot of those theories. We were then hit by COVID. We had to change the way that we worked, and then obviously we got closed after that. But a lot of that work has continued with other groups that we work with, and through that work we won quite a lot of awards, and were used as a kind of example of good practice. Next slide, please. So I changed the failures into challenges, and so the main challenge, I think, not just us, but for many, certainly for CICs and charities, is the chronic underfunding of for grassroots interventions. One of the things that we're seeing at the moment is the food banks seem to be the go-to solution to food poverty. And what we're trying to do is change the narrative that it's okay to give waste food to poor people, and look at much more dignified ways of addressing food poverty, ways which also benefit the environment and improve nutrition and support the local economy, and it can be done. And so this is a big problem, not just for us. Also, short-term grants are a problem. So this year I've had 5 small grants. So I've delivered 5 projects that all finish at the end of the year. So all of the people that have got really motivated, it then sort of, it's really difficult to continue. So yeah, that's obviously quite a big challenge. Changing public health agendas. As I mentioned earlier, when public health transitioned from the NHS to the council, the work for, around the charter just stopped, and so that yeah, I would say that's really probably quite a big challenge. Also, changes in leadership and the different priorities. We had I was working with various farmers and again public health and the cabinet member for health and wellbeing on the strategy, and everything was going really well. And then in May this year, we had a change in leadership at Lancashire County Council, and reform got in, and so I've had to change all of the language that I use in the strategy so that we can get them on board. Burnout, obviously, a big problem. There's never enough time to do all the work that needs to be done. And also perceptions about organic and local food, perceptions that it's more expensive, or it's people with money, or, you know, it's so, yeah. Yeah, next slide, please. I'm just going to go through this quickly because I'm aware of time. So what I've learned through the work that I've done is people change when they feel connected and not instructed. So when they're kind of part of a movement, climate messaging lands better through health and affordability. I very rarely talk about climate, and what I do is kind of add it into the messages that when I'm talking about, like, health, you know, health and affordability. Partnerships are everything. I'll talk a little bit about the collaboration shortly. And the big shifts really start with small, relatable actions. Next slide, please. So good practice. Make climate personal and relatable, and link food choices to health, and people will then listen. Work with farmers, not against them. They are the key climate actors. With the group that I set up, the strategy group that I've set up, I invited environmental groups and farmers together to meet, who are normally on opposing sides, and we have had some really interesting conversations, and I feel like that's working. Use evidence and empathy and understand the barriers that some people face, not just make assumptions at where people are. Provide practical and accessible solutions, things like just simple things like recipes, tips, affordable ingredients and simple swaps. Create inclusive food environment. Healthier food needs to be the easiest choice. When I say healthier food as well, I am linking that with more sustainable choices, like, you know, eating locally and seasonally, and building networks, not silos. So working with farmers, councils, and the health environment in the same system. Next slide, please. So in terms of collaboration, whenever I develop a project, any intervention, always hold a community consultation with key partners, so that the interventions can then be supported, and it's always better to work with people who understand their community's needs. When I set up Sustainable Food Lancashire, we had 17 members of different organisations involved in that, and then the consultation process was delivered over 9 consultation events with over 350 representatives of organisations that were relevant to kind of food at that time. And the food strategy meetings that I'm holding at the moment, it started with 4 events on farms with around 70 farmers, and also councils, universities and environmental organisations. Next slide, please. Right, what's next? Okay, so I'm working with South Ribble Council, as I mentioned, on the launch of a community greengrocers in Leyland. We are starting with a market stall at Preston, at Leyland Market. They don't currently have a produce market, so I've set up a group who are going to be running that. And at the same time, I'm working with Progress Housing to develop food co-ops in their community centres, which will be supported by volunteers and Progress, the Progress team. So the idea is then to scale up the food co-op model that we're currently developing and roll that out across other parts of Lancashire. The development of the strategy is ongoing, and tomorrow I've got a meeting with Wes Johnson, who's the current principal at Myerscough College, who's keen to see this work, and also make sure that, you know, whatever we do have is a strategy that is developed, that's actionable and not something that's just going to be left on a shelf. My intention is to interview more food experts. I'm going to the Oxford Real Farming Conference in January, and we'll be working with the Soil Association to do some more interviews and get the message out from there, so that, yeah, again, the public understand it. I'm going to be training 10 more food champions this year, and also will be, which I'm looking forward to, I'm running 7 gut health workshops to the WI, and again, those messages will be going out about food sustainability as well as the gut health. We're looking at the whole soil health and the bigger picture. So I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kay. That was really, really interesting to hear all about the different types of work that you're doing. I think we have time for 1 or 2 questions. If anyone's got a question for Kay that they'd like to ask now. Oh, Lily, yep. I think you're muted.
Sorry, I think can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah.
Amazing. Yes. Hello, Kay. I was just going to ask a little bit about where you see the future of sustainable food going, and with the larder in particular, in mind of government laws, policies, climate change, etc.
It's a really good question, and I don't know. I kind of changed my mind quite a lot. When I was at Groundswell doing the interviews there with some of the speakers, there was a real I felt there was a real buzz, and it was like a sense of kind of positivity about the future. It feels like we've got a food strategy now, a national food strategy, and it does, you know, I'm not really very trusting of politicians, but it does feel like it is heading in the right direction. However, if we do have a change in leadership and reform get in, I'm not sure, and that was a question that I asked all of my speakers, and what they all really said is that, you know, maybe we just have to educate them and change the narrative a little bit and change the language and look at, you know, if we're talking about food, I mean, that's my area, how we don't talk about climate there, and I've had to take all this out of all my the strategy proposal that I've sent to the reform guys that I've written to recently, and just sort of change it so that it's more about supporting local farmers, and you know, they're into sort of buying British, and it's just that change it. So I kind of feel like with some thought that things that, you know, that they can improve, and also I go to Groundswell every year, and it's a really small and Oxford Really Farmers Conference, and they are conferences for regenerative farmers, and they're growing in size every year.
Brilliant.
So to me, that's a great sign.
Excellent. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Lily. Thanks, Kay. I think my question was, I think you've answered my question. I was just going to say, how do you think it's best to approach this topic sort of in the context of, climate and the environment not necessarily being on the forefront of everyone's lips, or changing that conversation?
You know what? I feel like as I said in my presentation, I leave the word climate out because sometimes in the past I've kind of seen how people sort of go about, they're not connected to that word, or they don't, so you can kind of bring them in other words, like in other ways, like through, it's healthier, what about local, what about, so if you're kind of describing the practical ways that people can adopt a more climate friendly diet without actually saying the word in more practical ways, and I think that's it's the best way, and then they kind of realize, well, you're actually doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and I think seems like it might be pertinent for the future. Lily, you've got your hand up.
Hi, sorry, one more question. You mentioned a bit about gut health and the links with soil health as well, and I was just wondering, would you be able to go into a little bit more depth? Is that linked with like the microbiome in your stomach and eating the correct? Sorry.
Well, there's a lot of research being done at the moment about how the soil microbiome is very much linked to our gut microbiomes. Right. And as we start to talk more about gut health, that then triggers this conversation about the importance of soil health, that we need to be focusing more if we are, if we are going to, for people to actually have healthier guts, which then it has so many benefits, not just physically but mentally, that we do need to have healthier soil. So this is so it's great. It's actually the whole sort of, it seems like when I did my master's in nutrition in 92. And we didn't talk about gut health so much. We talked about the bifidus factor, but we didn't know about it then. Right. And it was because we didn't have the technology to really understand the gut, to really look at what the microorganisms were doing in there. And now we know, and that's why it's become a topical conversation, but that then is leading to this, we need to look at the soil as well and the importance of that. So it's exciting times, I feel.
Very much so. I guess I was just thinking, like with hydroponic farming, then that kind of removes all of that soil as well. So is it about taking back farming to the bare bones of it, essentially, and really working out what's in our soil to make it healthy?
You know what, I could have this conversation with you, honestly. It's so interesting. I was at a conference recently and they had this video with this guy. It's James Dyson is now growing strawberries in the most expensive greenhouse in the world. It was like it's like £1 billion or something like that, and they're growing them hydroponically. So I asked the question, what is nutritionally, how do those compare to strawberries that are grown in good soil? And they don't compare. So this is a problem now. Like mass produced sort of food is it's making it so much cheaper. However, it's not the nutritional more quality isn't.
Well, okay, thank you so much.
I feel like this could be another topic of a lunch and learn, just around soil and its relation with food. Thank you. That was so fascinating to hear both your approaches to the changing climate, political climate, and how your work fits into that, and then also about the soil and gut health. I'll certainly be following that as it develops. So we've got another 2 presenters this afternoon, so a packed program. So our next presenter is Rob, who is from MyCo in Manchester.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen. If you could let me know if you can see it okay.
Yep.
Everyone see that all
can
right?
do.
Cool. So yeah, hi everyone. My name's Rob. I'm a part of MyCo Manchester. So we are a workers cooperative based out of Platfields Market Garden in South Manchester. I thought today what I would do is well, this year we celebrated our fifth year, for 5 years of mushroomy stuff. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about kind of like what that journey has been like for us, and how the work that we do has really evolved a lot and changed a lot in those 5 years. So MyCo started as a started with me and 3 housemates in the pandemic, growing mushrooms in our basement in a weed grow tent that you can see on the left here. We as many people got really into like sourdough and baking and other like quite elaborate hobbies, the thing that sort of inspired us and hooked us in was growing mushrooms. And we started just doing it to like feed ourselves, feed our friends, and very quickly realized like there was a broader interest in the community, and linking back to that area of like hyper-local food systems, we very quickly started delivering the mushrooms, the oyster mushrooms that we were growing in our basement, to various small restaurants and cafes who were doing like various delivery schemes during the pandemic, as well as people. So we had like kind of a pretty small setup. We were producing primarily oyster mushrooms as well as shiitake, like I say, in the basement of our housing co-op where we lived, as a bit of a passion project, as a thing to keep us busy. Was never really supposed to be something that necessarily made us rich. It won't surprise you that it's very hard to make money growing food at any scale, but especially at this like teeny tiny micro scale. All we ever wanted was for it to basically pay for itself. So yeah, ate a lot of mushrooms on toast in this period of my life. Our garden was very thoroughly mulched with spent mushroom compost, and on the right here you can see I don't know if you can see actually, this is a so we had like a few different log piles in our garden, and we would mulch so much with the spent oyster mushroom substrate that oyster mushrooms would also start growing in the garden and on logs. So I just have really fond memories of this time of eating, like just being sick of oyster mushrooms basically. Like we couldn't get rid of them, and even when we thought they were done, we'd put them out in the garden, and they would continue to fruit, and we'd have many more harvests. So one of the places that we were selling oyster mushrooms to was Platfields Market Garden. Platfields Market Garden is a community garden based on an old bowling green in Fallowfield in South Manchester. We were selling to Platfields, who at the time were doing a veg box like collection delivery scheme that was proving really popular. And we were selling to them, and they were sort of selling on our mushrooms within their veg boxes. And they said, "We have a rusty old shipping container in the corner of our site. Would you like to come and grow mushrooms here?" And we said, yeah, sounds great. We'd outgrown the confines of our like tiny little weed grow tent in our basement. So we accepted the offer and started constructing a grow space in the corner of Platfields. We bought another shipping container. Never in my life did I think I would have to like be involved with the logistical challenge of like ordering and delivering and positioning a shipping container. There was a crane, it was a whole thing. Wild day. But yeah, we bought another shipping container and slowly started kitting it out. This photo in the bottom right is taken in our sort of workshop space, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But essentially we created we had like two shipping containers facing each other, and also like a semi-outdoor shed workshop and teaching space as well. So we started kitting that out. We moved to Platfields in our sort of second, third year of operations, and really quickly found kind of learned a couple of different things. One of which is it was still really hard to make not only to like make any money, but just running any kind of food production business on a small scale with limited resource was really, really difficult. Mushrooms are in some ways like a really good thing to grow on a small scale in terms of that scalability, but it's just incredibly difficult to make a profit and without like chucking large amounts of money in it. Like I say, we're never really in it to make money particularly, but like you want your projects and your babies to like be self-sustaining. So one thing we were like really struggling with was the financial side of things. And on the flip side, something that started to happen that worked out really nicely for us was people would come to us and want to learn how to grow their own mushrooms and were really interested in cultivation and growing. And so a lot of people would get in touch with us or like come over to our space and be like, can I have a look around, and just kind of naturally started chatting with us. And this is when we started delivering workshops, and this has now become our bread and butter at Myco. So we teach people about mushroom cultivation as well as lots of other naturey stuff, but our bread and butter is very much teaching people how to grow mushrooms in a variety of different settings and a variety of different cultivation methods. This year was also the year that we received funding for our first project. All of the members of Myco are trans, and we're really connected with the queer community in Manchester. And we found that as a result of that, as a result of being really open about our connection to the LGBT plus community, queer people kept flocking to us and to our events, and we thought like, oh, there's probably some funding in this, seeing as we've sort of accidentally created this like queer mushroom utopia in Platfields Market Garden. So we got some council funding to deliver some free mycology and nature stuff, and this kind of kicked off our like grant funded work, which we still run to this day. And we also started doing sort of ad hoc consultancy mushroomy stuff. So in the bottom right here, my colleague John is delivering a session with staff members at RHS Bridgewater who were interested in like, can you come and teach us how to grow mushrooms on site, and also teach us like how to identify the mushrooms that pop up across RHS. So we were doing grant funded programs and sort of slowly building up the momentum with that. Nothing particularly huge, but we also we did some more LGBT plus stuff, and also secured some funding, having done some of those smaller programs from the National Lottery's Awards for All program, doing just a big mix of like mycology, nature stuff, teaching people how to grow food in, like I say, a variety of different contexts. Some of the sort of random things I wanted to highlight because when we celebrated our 5th year of operations this year, it was really fun to look back and just remember some of the like really random moments that and projects and stuff that you do when you are like the mushroom people in South Manchester. The photo in the middle here of it's not the best picture, but our mushrooms were on Gardener's World, which was like a great claim to fame. Our mushrooms were a part of a flower show, or like a, I guess, garden show, and we got to see some of our oysters on telly, which was fantastic. We also started teaching and isolating locally found mushroom and fungal genetics. So the idea is that I could talk about this for a really long time, but whenever we are teaching people how to grow mushrooms, we want to be using genetics that are not going have zero risk to the local environment. So we, as Myco and like as mycologists, are somewhat nervous about the idea of introducing a lot of strains of fungal diversity. So, for example, yellow oyster mushrooms are a mushroom that does not grow natively in the UK. But if we were to go and run a log inoculation workshop with that strain, I would have concerns about that genetic material basically like escaping into the wild and messing with fungal systems and essentially invasive speciesing all over the shop and ruining our local native fungal biodiversity. So we started doing a lot of work around isolating local fungal genetics, going out into forests, finding some moistened mushrooms that we like the look of, and then isolating them through the use of agar plates and liquid cultures, and then eventually producing grain spawn with that, which we still use in all of our workshops. So where possible, Myco likes to use locally harvested strains of mushrooms, and also it's a really good conversation starter when we are delivering workshops to be like, why do we want to use locally found strains instead of ones that I've bought off Amazon or eBay. So that's something that we like to focus on in our work as well, is that local fungal biodiversity. We also started doing all kinds of random stuff. We did fermentation workshops. Everyone at Myco loves fermentation, so I think this is some pickled elderflower. We do lots of wild garlic stuff. We did mushroom tattoo like cultivation workshop with our friend's tattoo studio, which was really fun. Teaching people again, all this throughout this time, we've been teaching people how to grow mushrooms. Also doing stuff around soil science. So this little guy in the bottom left is a soil rotifer, a little mini beast that lives in happy, healthy soil. So we do soil microscopy sessions and soil science weekend courses, basically getting anyone who's interested in nature, farming, allotmenting the soil, and talking about the sort of fungal angle to that, supporting a lot of the stuff we've already talked about around soil health and the connection of between that and the health of our food systems, etc. We also do, top left here is a picture from our the Platfields Market Garden, the site that we're on, runs a Pride every year, like a really small alternative Pride event. And very fond Myco memory for all of us is we did fermentation taste. I'm trying to think what we called it. Fermentation taste tour, where we all brought loads of different fermented foods, talked about the different scientific processes and different types of fermentation that was taking place with those, and talking about and tasting them, sharing food. Something that connects a lot of our different sort of strands of work at Myco is this idea of connection with sensors and with land and with food. And so this felt like a nice sort of full circle moment for us as a organization that does lots of stuff with LGBT plus people to be in our sort of workshop space that we'd constructed ourselves, sharing fermented food with a bunch of lovely queers. It's like a really like fond memory for us as well. And I think this is my last slide. So just some more random bits that we're doing. Moss soil science, moss safaris as well. We teach people about moss, teach people about lichen, mushroom identification weekenders. We never forget our roots and are always doing mushroomy stuff. This is a 2-day course that we ran last month, I believe, October. Yeah, wow. At Delamere Forest, which, as you can imagine, is fantastic for mushrooms. So we're still doing mushroomy stuff, less focus on the growing and the cultivation ourselves, more focus on teaching people how to connect to fungi, land, each other through our work as Myco. If you want to see what we're up to, we are on Instagram and Facebook at Myco Manchester. We've also got a website. Like I say, we've run a combination of grant-funded events, so like free events and paid events. We would love to be able to offer 100% free stuff, but we also got to pay ourselves where we can. So there's always a back and forth there, but we're always doing like a really random mix of stuff from like I say, fermentation, mushrooms, soil science, moss safaris, any kind of nature project that connects people to land and each other and mushrooms. That kind of covers a bit of what we do. I'll stop sharing my screen. Yeah, there we go.
Thanks, Rob. That was really interesting to hear all about Myco. Has anyone got any questions before we move on to Annie? Kay?
That was amazing, and I want to come and see you. I don't have a question because I'm going to have to dash off because I've got another meeting at 5:30. But Sam, can you connect me with Rob? Because I've got quite a lot of questions. And so one of them is, can we, supply your mushrooms at the food co-op? Right. Okay. I'll be in touch.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Kay.
That's great. Really, yeah. I'm really sorry. I've got to
Sorry.
But thank you so much.
Thanks, Kay. Has anyone else got any questions before we move on? Because we are running out of time. Okay. I might move on if that's okay, Rob. And we have Annie here today as well, who's going to be talking about Let's Grow Preston. So I will spotlight Annie. Annie, if you've got a presentation you can share, or if you just want to chat, that's also fine. Lily has said if you have time at the end, you'd like to ask more. Okay, that's fine. That's more than possible, Lily. Thank you. I think you're muted.
Yeah, I think you're muted.
Yeah. I think you're still muted, Annie.
I am. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I was trying to get my presentation up and I went into presentation mode and then I can't see the rest of my screen because I'm in presentation. I do apologise. I'm very old. I'm Let's Grow Preston. We started in 2011 as a network of community gardens, friends of open spaces and allotment tiers. And we support a network of different groups across the PR postcode. About 12 years ago, we got our own sites. So we've got one in Ribbleton in Preston and we've got one in Ashton Walled Garden. And from there, we grow lots of food. We teach people how to grow food and plants. And we generate a little bit of an income by selling plants. We practice these principles of horticulture and therapy. I'm so flustered today. Horticultural therapy. So we've got lots of beneficiaries who come in because they've been referred to us, because they're lonely, and we teach them methodical activities through horticulture, and as a byproduct of that, we have lots of plants. We support the allotmentees by providing them with these seedlings, and in exchange, they give us their surplus food. We only collect it for 8 weeks of the year, just over the summer holidays. And over the last 3 years, we can report that we've collected enough food and then distributed that to the food hubs of Preston to make 40,000 meals. And that's sequestered 4 tonnes of carbon. So the rest of the time, we're still working. And it's interesting to hear the connections between the soil health and gut health, because we've been following the no-dig system for the last 12 years. And that's resulted in our soil being really, really healthy, full of mushrooms, rots all the oak beams in our raised beds, but results in a really healthy system, so that we can grow more or less anything. The only thing we struggle with is cauliflower. 1 minute you've got a nice little curd and the next second it's bolted. But that's okay because we can't be good at everything. So we work with lots and lots of different community groups across the city, and we'll deliver outreach work. Right now, we're delivering lots of workshops in willow weaving and making Christmas garlands. We do a Bulbs of Hope every year and support World Mental Health Day through that, and that's a really good system of connecting people. Basically, you tell us a month and a colour, a month that you're not looking forward to next year. Tell us your favourite colour, and we'll plant you up some bulbs which you can take away, and now you've got something to look forward to. So our ecosystem is community groups throughout the PR postcode. We work with South Ribble Borough Council, Chorley Council, tiny little bit of work with Wyre because that's still a PR postcode, and then we'll consult with anybody. We represent our organisation nationally with locality and with Sustain's Good to Grow project, which is how we know how much food we've produced every year, because we follow the harvestometer database and put all the information in there. Our plans for the future are that we are working with Lancashire Adult Learning, who provide accredited horticultural training, and that's brilliant, but it's from a bowling pavilion in Ashton World Garden, and the bowling pavilion's not big enough to deliver that training and have all the volunteers that we do have on site at the time. So we're looking to get new premises, which is very exciting, and causing us no end of exciting issues with planning and councillors and all sorts. But we also are working with quite a few consortiums on the social value side, and this is where we see another alternative to either income or is not having to spend as much money, because we're tapping into other resources. And that's something that I'd recommend to all of us. It's helping them with sustainability, giving them new ideas, but it's also giving us lots and lots of people coming in and doing work for us. So we've made some new benches on Monday and Tuesday. They've put in new shelving in our outdoor kitchen. And because we're teaching people how to grow food, we were also hoping that they'd take the food home with them. But a lot of our beneficiaries don't know how to cook. So that's the reason why we've got an outdoor kitchen now, so that we can actually teach people how to cook the food that they're growing and enjoy it socially. I think that'll do for me questions. I have got pictures, but oh my goodness, trying to share the screen right now.
That's okay. Thanks, Annie. That's really interesting to hear. Yeah, again, the breadth of work that you do across Preston and across reaching out into different places, and some of those tips as well for how we can all diversify a bit of what we do and keep it going. So has anyone got any questions for Annie? And I'll bring Rob back with if Annie's got any questions about mushrooms too. Lily, yeah.
I was just going to ask, I guess this could be answered by both of you, but how do you bring the community in through, I don't know, advertising or through media? How do you raise awareness? Because so many, I think, people rely on outdoor activities such as farming and mushroom. So I'm wondering, for those people who are, I guess, lonely or depressed, how do you reach out to these people who can really benefit from it?
Do you want to go first, Rob?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Annie. Yeah, I think with Myco, we are really fortunate in sort of two ways. One of which is that because we're based at a pre-existing community garden, we're kind of a project within a project, and Plattfields already very conveniently run several strands of like health and wellbeing focused sessions. So already have a lot of strong connections in that area.
Fantastic.
Have been doing green social prescribing for years now, and so we really benefit from that, I guess, partner working and the sense of they are really fantastic for being like, oh, someone came along to one of our sessions who is really interested in mushrooms. Can we can we kind of divert them to you? And we are always really grateful and always have some really fantastic chats. And so, yeah, I think we really benefit from that partner working, especially as Mud, who run the space, have been running for a bit longer than us, and so have a little bit more experience in that area. So we really benefit from their networks. And additionally, we have a really strong online presence. Like, it's one of the things I think we're really good at is comms and social media. Like, not to toot my own horn, but that's my day job, and so I have no hesitation being like, yeah, I think we're really good at that. And so I don't think that necessarily is going to capture absolutely everyone by any means, but where we are based, there is a really big student population. A lot of younger people tend to use social media, and so I think there's like something there about having really strong communication strategy to offer about your offering, to make it really clear like who it is, what you do.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd say similar. We've been lucky enough to have a couple of videos created by locality, and they're on our website. We deal with all the social prescribers, and we're fortunate enough to get awarded as social prescribing service provider of the year
Wow.
in 23, I think it was.
Okay.
So we get a lot of links through there, but we're also very visible because we are giving these plants here, and we also provide public liability insurance, umbrella insurance for a lot of the smaller group. We've built up that goodwill,
Brilliant.
and we're always happy to help. So a lot of it is word of mouth. I think for Ashton, because we're in a walled garden within a big park, then we quite often get local residents walking in through the gate and saying, well, I've lived here all my life and I never knew this place existed. But somebody from Fulwood will be coming every day, being sent to us. So yeah, we're working on a marketing strategy. We secured 3 years funding in June from the National Lottery, and we're fortunate enough to have a comms and marketing officer. And her role is, at the moment, she gets a lot of jobs, but one of her roles is to build us a strategy so that we can continue to speak up about the good news, but being very careful to take that good news away from people who, we don't want to steal anybody's thunder, So if we're doing work for Friends of Avon Park, because that's what Avon Park have done, but it's all the work that we're doing on our own sites and making sure that we're really sensitive about that. That's one of the hardest things we've got. Because even though Preston's a really small city and everybody works really well together, it only takes one bad apple, one attitude, and it can really do damage. So we are very careful about what we do and how we do it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
That's a really good point as well. I was wondering, I feel like it's been a theme through all three of your presentations about this point. It's all well and good if you can grow lots of food, but then if people can't cook it, then there's no, if people don't know what to do with the food, then what was the value in growing it, I suppose, is an argument you could make. Are you finding that people are, do you find that people are not confident in the kitchen or don't know what to cook, and you feel that's changed or is changing, or do you think it's a constant thing where there is a skill gap where people just aren't able to cook food from scratch?
For us in Preston, there's a huge skill gap. There's also poverty, so there's either fuel poverty, there's domestic violence, so people don't have sharp knives, people won't have pots and pans, they might have a microwave, they might have an oven, but that might be it. So, and certainly with our beneficiaries, they might have all the gear, but they just have no idea. For the food hubs, again, there's been a shift away from the fresh food. So even though there's 40 odd food hubs, there's only about 10 of those now that will take this fresh food off us. And it's all grown locally. It's all grown organically. And it's really bizarre how there is less appetite. However, we've got Beanstalk CIC, we've got Kind of Communities, we've got Intact, we've got a few other local groups that are all geared up to train people how to cook food. Beanstalk's not just training you how to cook food, but they've got access to English, maths, and these are we're all connected like a mycorrhizal system throughout Preston, and we're all supporting each other. So it doesn't have to be me that's making soup, thank the Lord. We've got Beanstalk coming in and teaching people. So it's about, I think in Preston, definitely, we celebrate what we're really good at, and then we work with other people who are really good at something else, and then together we make better, sustainable differences.
Definitely. So that was one of the key things that Kay was talking about on her presentation around that working building relationships rather than working in silos, and how actually, like you're saying, if it's it's all connected, then you're all going to be working better, rather than repeating what's the phrase? Reinventing the wheel. That's it. Rob, do you want to come in on that question as well?
I don't think I have anything to add, to be honest. Yeah, I think Annie, you put it perfectly. Like, yeah, I have nothing to add.
Oh, amazing. As Lily, have you got any more questions? A couple of people have had to drop off the call.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask Robin a little bit more about with mushroom growing, because for me, a lot of my friendship group, they've got more and more into foraging. It's definitely become like a growing trend in popularity. And I'm just curious, in terms of sustainability, do you think by being able to grow mushrooms in your own property, it basically, it does help, it does benefit nature, because we're not just going to keep taking and taking. Not that we're in a particular position where too many people, I think, are mushroom foraging exactly. But I was also going to ask, leading on from that, where do you see this trend growing to? Do you think it will like migrate into something new as well?
Yeah, really interesting questions. Yeah, I think on the topic of kind of like foraging and sustainability and the relationship between cultivating your own mushrooms and going out and picking them, we at Myco always really encourage people to go foraging if that's something that they're interested in. The way that mushroom life cycles and fungal life cycles work mean that I have little to no concern about people like overpicking mushrooms. What I am concerned about is people like decimating forests and stuff.
Yes,
and
yeah,
also taking more than you personally need, I think is like a wasteful practice. But just in terms of how mushrooms work, when you pick that mushroom, the fungal organism still alive, you've not done any damage to it at all. It will live on. You know, there's lots of other things that will damage it and will harm it, which will be things like, you know, cutting down trees, moving big lumps of soil without checking on the biodiversity and stuff. So I guess on that specific point, I don't actually have too many concerns, but it's a really common question people come to us with, is like, are you worried about everyone being really into foraging now? And it's like, at least in terms of mushrooms, like, not super worried. We always really do encourage people to forage ethically and sustainably, and there's like several different pillars to that principle. I do think there's a lot of value in growing mushrooms, just in terms of like understanding their life cycles better and understanding mushrooms are really mysterious. Like even to us, I've been running a mushroom project for 5 years and they still surprise me all the time. So I think there's a lot of value to them just outside of that very practical, like you get to eat the really local foods piece. So yeah, I think there's something there. And then in regards to kind of your second question, I think Myco was born right at the same time that many of the mushroom projects were born, because there was a really big boom in interest in mycology, community mycology. Merlin Sheldrake's book Entangled Life was really having like a hot moment. Everyone was obsessed with it. And Paul Stammett's work, like there's lots of really iconic mycologists and sort of scientific communicators that have really like caused this like big ripple in terms of mainstream mushroom understanding and interest. And we're definitely on the back end of that, just like looking at how people connect to our events and the kind of people we're bringing into our spaces. I'd say like we peaked at maybe about 2 years ago in terms of all of our events were selling out. Like it felt like we were going to be mushroom billionaires. But 2 years later, I would say a lot of the mushroom projects that were born at the same time as us aren't around anymore, have changed quite a lot in the same way that we have. And so at least within our context within Greater Manchester, I actually think we are already kind of on the back end of that sort of big booming hype bubble. People are always going to be interested. I think mushrooms can stand the test of time in terms of trendiness and stuff, and there's lots to learn. But I definitely, it's been really interesting to reflect this year on like the mushroom landscape almost, and how people are interested in it as a field, and like people now actually understand quite a lot more about mushrooms, but also there's more money than ever being pumped into, you know, mushroom supplement industries and stuff like that, and scams and things as well. So it's a really interesting time to be doing mushroom stuff.
I mean, do you think you'll go into like, I don't know, the mushroom pills? Where do you do you think that'll be something you'll be interested in?
We could make a lot of money if we did. I will say, I think, so something that we do run is a medicinal mushroom course. And the idea
Brilliant.
behind this is we teach people how to make their own supplements, which is like a part of the program. But what
That's
actually
fantastic.
the majority and the meat of the course is like understanding the scientific claims that people are making, understanding how to evaluate them, and how to access peer-reviewed articles, and how to understand the language that's used, because there is so much. So there's lots of lying. There's lots of lying taking place. There's a lot of scams, and so yeah, we already kind of offer it. A lot of people get in touch interested in. I mean, as you can imagine, all sorts of things, but especially people are interested in if we sell supplements or tinctures. And I guess I will say I personally don't take them, and like I don't think there's necessarily huge robust bodies of evidence to suggest that it is a product that's worth investing in. However, it's like such an individual choice thing, right? I'm never going to be like, everyone should take lion's mane tincture and use my referral code. So yeah.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks. Thanks, Rob. And yeah, I've just not thought about it from that perspective. But yeah, I suppose there is quite a lot of lion's mane and things at the minute. So I think we will finish there for today, unless anyone's got any other questions. Nope. Okay. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much to Kay, who's had to jump off the call, and to Annie and to Rob for some really fascinating presentations about all of your different work within the food space around the Northwest, sort of branching out just to Lancashire. We tiptoed into Greater Manchester as well. We are recording this presentation, so if anyone wants to watch back, share it with friends or colleagues that you think might be interested in a really fascinating discussion. And yeah, thank you very much. It's our last Lancs Can Lunch and Learn of the year, and we'll be back in 2026. I think it's January, March, May, July, September and November again, so they're sort of every other month. But yeah, thank you so much, and we will see you all soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. It was, very enjoyable talks. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.